Hello and welcome to Fludded. It's me, Craig, and today I'm going to have a chat. I've got a guest, my first ever guest on Fludded, and he's over there. There he is, look. That's Phil.
Hi.
Can I say your name, Phil?
Yeah, you can. Hello to Craig's viewer.
Thanks, Phil, for that. And Phil's here because he's a bit of a Doctor Who fan, so we thought we'd talk about everything to do with Doctor Who. So he's poised, he's ready to go, and so am I. Now, I don't know much about Doctor Who.
Well, that's going to be great then.
But I've got my Wikipedia page open, so I'm ready to...
Go for it.
I'm ready to go.
We've been friends for decades, and I don't think I've ever watched an episode of Doctor Who with you. Thank goodness, I think I probably.
I've never watched TV with you.
No.
Mind you, I don't really like Doctor Who, or I haven't done so.
No, which is absolutely fine. I'm not here to convert you. You know, there's two types of people in the world. There's those who can hear the music and those who can't. And you, unfortunately, Craig, are deaf.
So, we'll see where this goes. We've had a bit of a pre-chat today already about it. I'm kind of interested in things, everything here Flooded, all about everything to do with how just the business of television. I'm interested in that. I'm interested in the history of television, the business of television, and I get a little bit of, is it called Schadenfreude, when people seemingly look like they're messing up, which is a little bit of what I think's happening on Doctor Who.
Yeah, right.
Okay. And we shall see. We'll see. But I also want to talk a little bit about the history of Doctor Who right off the bat, from how it started. So you should probably start, Phil, and tell us. I guess I don't really want it to be an interview, more just a chat. So tell me about why Doctor Who existed in the context of what was happening in television here in the UK, and that's an important part of it, because my understanding is the first episode of Doctor Who was broadcast the day after JFK died. Is that right?
Yes.
Off you go.
23rd November 1963 was the third broadcast. I'll be brief about this because if people haven't know about it, because they're interested in it. If they don't know about it, they're probably not that interested. But actually, it's one of the very first programmes that it's almost like the American model now, that was created by a committee. In that there was the guy who was running BBC at the time and in charge of programmes, Sidney Newman, was a Canadian. He'd just been at ITV, and he's got very commercial view in mind, quite different to the sort of BBC mindset. And he kind of realised that between the sports on a Saturday afternoon and the family shows like Jukebox Jury, there was a gap of about half an hour where they seemed to lose the audience. And I thought, right, what we need there is a family show. So we got a few people together, many writers, and said, we need a show to fill this half-hour gap every Saturday tea time. And they very quickly decided it's got to be science fiction. They very quickly came up with the idea that it's going to be time travel. And came up with the idea it's going to be an old man travelling with some earthlings, really. And they chose a history teacher and an English teacher, so they could do a bit of as the Doctor's companions. So the history teacher could teach history when they did their historical stories. A science teacher could talk about science things when they did the futuristic story. So it's going to entertain, educate, and
inform.
Oh, absolutely. And
I think inform was the other one.
Yeah, I think it is.
Did it inform?
Well, yeah, it informed people that it was entertained and educated, and it informed people that dialects were bad, and it's great. And actually, that committee was a number of writers and that sort of thing. They ended up they came up with the idea of Doctor Who. Some bits sort of were kind of very much by design and planning. Some bits just happened by mistake. I think that the police box, the idea was that every time the TARDIS landed somewhere, it would blend into its surroundings, so it'd be a different prop every episode. They realised that's going to be very expensive, so let's just keep it as a police box. And great things. We've got great people involved. We've got a first female producer on BBC was producing it.
Who was that?
Verity Lambert. And she went on to develop Euston Films and things like that. She wasn't. I don't think she was taken very seriously at the time. She was giving this huge sort of program in terms of special effects to put together with very little budget. And every time she went to people like designers, and nobody took her seriously. So she had to really fight hard to get it done. The first director, Waris Hussain, who's still directing now, he's in his 80s now. He was an Asian, and again, the mixture of an Asian man working for BBC and a female director. None of them actually been taken that seriously.
See, this is interesting, because what you're basically flagging is that it's always been kind of diverse There's been a diversity to it. All right, they had an old guy being this like wacky sort of. What was he? Was he the Doctor? Was an old sort of fuddy-duddy professor type character, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, they never really defined where. They just defined that it came from a different time and a different place. So at that point, they didn't establish that he's a Time Lord or anything like that. And he had travelled with a granddaughter. And what's quite interesting is even in the first adventure, how he was on this sort of learning curve. You know, in the first story, they were being chased and they were being slowed down by this injured ape man. They were carrying this primitive, and the Doctor actually picked up a stone ready to kill him, so they could speed up and run off. And the idea that it's really nice that the Doctor, as the series developed, gained a humanity, gained a love, gained a respect for all life, and and actually ever since the character's been on this sort of like this narrative, which is actually about inclusivity, the programs have always been celebrated diversity.
Right, so there's been, how many seasons have we had now? So we had seasons up to season 26, took us to the 7th Doctor, which was
Sylvester
McCoy. But then, I mean, we'll probably keep going back talking about the original series. Oh, yeah. But just to point out that when Doctor Who first got broadcast, the average viewers were straight off the bat, it was like 8 million people. Then it went to 10 million, 7 million. So it's always been around the 8, 7, 10 million sort of number, all the way right up to, and I'm looking for 2000, but it didn't quite get to 2000. It dropped off oddly on season 26 with the 7th Doctor down to 4 million. But you had an explanation for that, didn't you?
Yeah, it'd been that time when. I mean, I think the BBC just wanted to bury it. The heart wasn't in it. They weren't giving it a lot of money or a lot of attention. The producer was kind of left alone in an office to sort of like kind of fend for himself. And he, a number of times, had tried to leave the programme because he'd been producing it for a while. He was really soap opera was more like his genre, and he wanted to move away. And
was there like a bit of snobbery about science fiction? Was it classed as science fiction or was it science fantasy or something?
Science fiction. It's called. The BBC just called it a drama. It was made by the BBC drama department all the time. So it wasn't quite children's as people sort of perceive it to be. So it always seemed as BBC drama. They class it as science fiction.
Right. So what I'm actually looking at the numbers here, which is that who was the 6th Doctor?
Colin Baker.
Colin Baker was the 6th Doctor, and his last season was season 23, September 86. And he was only getting 4.9 million. So the numbers were going down. And then all the way through season 24, 25 and 26 with the 7th Doctor, we were at about 5 and 4.
Yeah, I mean, when Colin Baker's figures were dropped, that's when there was some really good sort of ITV was showing some sort of American imports. I mean, like Battlestar Galactica, it might have been something like that, which was showing, obviously, much bigger budgets, much glossier. I think they started their episodes slightly earlier, so they were gaining the audience then. By the time McCoy was a Doctor, the BBC hardly any publicity. Things like a new series in the past might have got a Radio Times front cover or lots of trailers, and it'd be there. The new season of BBC One includes the return of the Doctor. Sylvester didn't really get any publicity at all, and he was broadcast at the same time as Coronation Street, which obviously is ITV's biggest programme. So the programme was buried.
For any Americans watching, Coronation Street is an extremely popular sort of northern soap opera in the UK.
Yeah,
it was the must-watch every night. So to put Doctor Who up against that is like killing Doctor Who, really.
It's really. I mean, any big programme, you're not going to fight Coronation Street in the ratings because it still is the most watched programme every week. So putting Doctor Who against it, the Doctor wasn't going to, and not giving the programme much publicity, the Doctor wasn't going to survive. And actually, it's quite interesting that there wasn't even an announcement that Doctor Who was cancelled or anything. It just wasn't taken up again. It wasn't recommissioned. So even the actors involved didn't really sort of get any official notice or termination of the programme. It was just that their contracts were never renewed. And, it lasted that way for, I think, about 6 years and was a TV movie. But, 16 years until there was another series sort of came up, which Russell T Davies was in charge. That's 2005.
So also to give like context to television at the time, round about sort of the late 80s, 90s, there really was only 3 stations, would you say, to pick from?
But Channel 4 was in...
Well, we had Channel 4, but so we had BBC 1, BBC 2, ITV and Channel 4, plus by 2000 we had Channel 5. Now, Channel 4 was kind of funded by advertising, although I think it was kind of monitored by the government or something. The government had similar status to the BBC, although it was commercial. Channel 5 was totally commercial and a brand new channel. So these 2 channels had low budget. They were doing low budget stuff. There's no way they could really have afforded to go into doing sort of a high-end drama.
No,
I wouldn't have thought. Or sorry, they didn't have studios. Well, they did have studios, but they certainly didn't have the facilities that the BBC had, which was studios, staff, art departments, costume departments.
They didn't have any studios.
Sound departments.
Channel 4 have never made a programme. Channel 4, by everything Channel 4 does, is brought in. They've not made a single programme in their lives.
So the BBC pretty much knew it was like the top dog. But what happened around about 2000 was that Channel 4 started doing a lot of sort of wacky television that was really appealing to younger people. And the BBC started running a little bit scared. But tell me a little bit. So what happened to Doctor Who? It went off the air for a while, didn't it?
It just kind of petered out and disappeared. So when the final 1989 series was made, we kind of weren't aware that this was it. Just and I think sort of cast and crew kind of assumed that they would, they'd be back again sort of to film. And some nice, Andrew Cartmel, who was a script editor at the time, saw some really nice sort of like plot and character things in that were really going somewhere. And the programme, which had perhaps been slightly embarrassing at some point and wasn't quite hitting the mark in terms of quality, was actually suddenly the quality of directing, acting, scripts. Suddenly it was all coming together again. Maybe it had lost its way, and it's so sad that actually it was coming together. It was finding its feet, but I think the perception of the BBC and perception of the viewers was actually it had lost its way. And no, by the time it started really, really sort of making great progress, people had stopped watching it, and it had kind of seemed a bit laughable. And I think, the BBC were almost like, we thought it was tired, it's run its course, and they wanted to make new drama, and kind of, I think they wanted to quietly sort of like Doctor Who fade away, because obviously the fans, it's got this massive fan base, would actually kick up a fuss if they knew that Doctor Who was being axed or arrested, and so it just quietly just disappeared.
Doctor Who had this myth about it of people, whenever Doctor Who came on, you go and hide behind the sofa. But I always wondered what sort of houses people must live in to be able to have their sofa in the middle of the room so you can have space. Because working class families always had their sofa banging against the wall, so you couldn't hide behind your sofa.
God, walls. Yeah, well, actually, I used to watch it from behind a cushion, definitely petrified. But it had that thing of hide behind the sofa, but the sets would wobble. And things like that. There was always that myths about
nice,
it. That you think, you hide behind the sofa. Yeah, it was terrifying. It was sets wobble. Oh, it was a bit cheap. And actually, when it worked, I mean, it was absolutely terrifying. And some of my first memories as a child, good television just creates images that stay in your head forever. And certainly, my earliest memories are from Doctor Who, being absolutely scared to death.
I remember when it started, when it was the decision was to bring it back to the BBC, that everyone was super proud of this is our, Doctor Who, our, the fantastic series, and brilliant, really cool, they're bringing back Doctor Who, which is kind of annoying because, the BBC scrapped it. So why are but they're boasting we've got this awesome brand. Well, why did you wait so long? How long was it before they brought it back?
It's about 16 years.
Yeah,
it did have one TV movie in the middle of that where they tried to revive it in co-production with America, which was all right actually, but it just didn't work. Proper series came back after 16 years.
Did it come back for any sort of particular reason? Was there did they spot a gap in the market or something, or was it just about sales to America maybe? Or
it is a mixture. I think one is because Russell T Davies was sort of lead writer or showrunner, producer when it came back. And I think at this point he'd been very successful, and the BBC had said, what would you like to do? And then he had colleagues who suddenly become like in charge. I think Jane Tranter, a producer he'd worked with on various projects, had suddenly become in charge of BBC Wales. And she said, Russell, come to Wales and make something. And he kind of said, yeah, how about Doctor Who?
And when it came back, although there's like the state we're in at the minute is everything's sort of been monitored for diversity, and there's a lot of pressure on programme makers to be diverse. But there wasn't so much in 2005, was it, when the Ninth Doctor appeared on the screen, and it was a diverse cast anyway, if I remember.
The just nature of Russell T Davies is he thinks very much of diversity, and deliberately he's thinking of the audiences. He's not thinking in terms of any sort of, I think, political correctness necessarily.
He wasn't wagging his. This is the thing. He wasn't wagging his finger at the audience to go, you should all be thinking. Look what we. It just happened, and people don't care, did they? They're just like, well, that's the society we live in, so it's been represented fairly.
Yeah. And I think I know he's quite right. I think he's wanted the programme to be as successful as possible, to attract as many people as possible. So therefore, on screen, he made sure there's real sort of diversity in terms of sort of characters, instead of casting, instead of issues and storylines, and it was very up. And actually, I think for 2005, some of it was perhaps quite daring and quite brave. But he was. Look, he had this vehicle of Doctor Who, this juggernaut of a programme that the BBC were very proud of. So he was able to put these extra things that he believed passionately himself, into the programme. So
my point is that the Twitter wasn't so much there to pressure him into doing certain things with the script or doing certain things with the cast. So it was just like solid storytelling. And if I remember when the Ninth Doctor, Eccleston, wasn't it? When that came out, it was massively popular. It was like, and with adults and kids alike. It was really brilliant.
Yeah.
And it was what everyone was talking about. And then, but he only stayed on for one season, didn't he? One series. What happened there?
Well, there was lots of stories. I mean, first of all, the popularity. I remember at the time, because obviously it was surreal. Sort of, this programme that I loved, suddenly back after 16 years. And it was weird. Just television people saying, just where's that TARDIS, and hearing that music again.
But does that mean that they could have done anything and you'd been perfectly happy with it?
Oh no!
Or were you like nervous about it?
Oh, very nervous. And I'm very nervous because I thought this is the only chance of getting it right now, because there was a failed sort of TV movie in the mid-90s. I thought, right, if this fails, that's it. The programme's dead and buried. So they've got to get this right. And actually, with the pedigree of casts like people like Eccleston and someone like Russell T Davies, who instinctively knows about TV and he understands audiences really, really well. That if this fails, then that's it. The programme will never be seen again. And it was surreal just watching it and hearing just the people. I'd heard from people that evening after it was first broadcast. People I'd not heard from for decades, which sort of messaging me to sort of say, "Wow, wasn't that fantastic?" And I thought this is great, but this is kind of freaky. And also, it was suddenly become trendy to like Doctor Who, and I'd never been trendy in my life. So it was weird. I know the BBC called it a brand or a franchise, but just the idea, just this great programme that was about a joy of life and survival and celebrated people was actually just actually making people.
So were you like into Doctor Who when you were at school?
Was I what?
Were you into Doctor Who when you were at school?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
How did that manifest itself? Were you in clubs or anything like that?
No, because there wasn't enough people to make a club. Just me.
Were you doing anything Doctor Who-y? Doctor Who-y? Were you doing anything at all Doctor Who-y?
How about a passive?
Were you walking around in a costume? Because I used to be into Hitchhikers and I used to walk around with a towel.
Yeah, no, I wasn't quite doing anything like that. But I mean, people knew I liked Doctor Who, definitely. I think if you chat to anyone I was at school with, I think, Phil Dukes, what do you think of? Would say Doctor Who.
I think, but I think you're being quite is modest the right word? You can, because your mate was Rhys Shearsmith, right, at school, and you told me once that Rhys Shearsmith, who's one of the team of
League of Gentlemen,
and you and Rhys were mates at school, and didn't he build a Dalek at one point?
We built Daleks, yeah. Well,
you did that together?
We have friends Robert Yeah, after school, in school holidays. That long summer holiday after we did our O-levels was about 3 months off. We built 3 Daleks and a Davros.
So you each had a Dalek?
Yeah.
Where was this? What town? Are we allowed to say?
Yeah, what town?
Where was this? Where was this happening?
This is in Gallifrey. This is in Skyro. This was in Hull.
In Hull. So there's three lads in Hull building Dalek.
We had. I remember.
Was that cool?
Yeah. Oh God, no. Never been cool. The best. Our first outing with the Daleks was we were on Flamborough Head to raise August bank holiday to raise money for the RNLI. And
This is you,
Reese, and our friend Robert.
Oh right, okay. How old were you then?
16. It was about
right.
a week after my 16th birthday.
Okay.
And we were, so it'd be 1985. And I remember we were in this van, Fred worked for like his electrical delivery company. So back in this van, which nobody had washing machines in, we're still trying to make the Daleks. We're sort of trying to drill as the van's rolling about. And we got there in the end. And yeah, Flamborough Head, so we heard the Doctor Who theme tune, and the back of the van went up, and the lift came out. We reeled on and went into the crowds, and all day making money. It was exhausting because you just had to scurry about. Please donate to the RNLI.
And of course, your mate ended up being on. Was he in Doctor Who? He wasn't.
Yeah. He's series 9 of the Return of Doctor Who with Peter Capaldi.
That must have been amazing for him. Although he's probably been very cool about it. Because by then he was quite famous, wasn't he? So this is what happens to celebrities, by the way. They get very cool.
It did a brief appearance about a year or two before on an episode, The Adventures in Time and Space, which is kind of a drama about the making of Doctor Who. And he, just very briefly, in one scene at the end of it, played Patrick Troughton. So he was on the TARDIS set dressed as Patrick Troughton. And he only had a couple of lines in it, but I mean, I think for me, just seeing him on the TARDIS set was awesome. And
were you well gel?
It was too surreal. No,
you were pleased for him. That's nice.
It had to be him because it was me. I'd have just been playing. So I wasn't jealous at all because he was right that it was him and not me. And then when it was an episode of Doctor Who, it was just again surreal. And it was in series. I think it was series 9, episode 9, and of course he made a series now called Inside Number 9. So everything. But
so he was in. Did you say series 9, which was 2015?
Episode 9.
So average 6 million watching at that stage. Now, see what gets me. Hold on. What gets me is we're now at a time where there's 1,000 channels available to viewers. So getting numbers like 6 million was brilliant. I mean, it was always when the new series came out. Sort of, the 2000 series, 2005 onwards, it was always around about 7 million, looking at the numbers here, 8 million, 6 million. It's dived off recently a little bit, but so it was still super popular right up to series 9 when Reese was in it. And who was it was...
Capaldi.
He was popular though, wasn't he?
Mixed, actually, He was very... I mean, he's great. I mean, obviously, a fantastic actor and a great doctor. I think for the younger fans who certainly come in with like Tennant and Matt Smith, who's a very young doctor, he seemed like really old as a lead character. And I think a lot of the newer audience, I'd assume the doctor was, even though the character was old, was youthful. So, and you hear a lot of people say, because I'm a teacher, so I'd hear school kids saying, "Oh, he's too old to be the doctor." Well, obviously, from my perspective, he wasn't that at all. And I know he was quite kind of abrasive as a doctor. So obviously, Tennant and Matt Smith, although they had a dark side sometimes, they're very heroic. And they had someone who was quite caustic at times and quite sharp and maybe quite, I guess, alien. A bit like the 6th Doctor, Colin Baker had been. And I think that had shaken up the audience a little bit, that they weren't quite as sure of... They didn't love him in exactly the same way as they love, say, like Tennant.
What would you say then with the character of the Doctor? What's the core element, I think, that runs through that character, which every Doctor has to have? Because gender doesn't matter, age doesn't matter, hyper intelligence, I guess, super intelligent, bit scatty. What would you say is the? Have you got an idea of what that might
No,
be?
because I've heard various people talk about different things. Some people might say like an eccentricity, but then I think that just if you try and create an eccentricity,
that is the character,
you can't create. If you create an eccentricity, it doesn't work. It's got to sort of generate or grow from somewhere. Some people would say it's kind of there's an essential, almost like an Englishness about him, even though because they're thinking about the foreign market, the fact that he's often or she's often dressed in kind of like, an Edwardian Victorian English sort of way.
Do you say she then?
Yes, I did. I don't know. I mean, there's an interest goodness. I mean, I think at one point I don't think there's still the fourth Doctor where they established the fact that the Doctor had two hearts, and I think the writer at the time of Capaldi said, that means you could love twice as much. And I think the essential thing that runs through the Doctor is just this love of all life and this respect for all life, and the Doctor would, lay down their life for, a budgerigar, and not see it as a.
So the Doctor's an alien, but looks like a human. Is that how his species appear all the time? Like they all look like humans.
Yeah.
Well, that's handy.
And many different races are, alien races have humanoid qualities. In the Star Wars universe, in the Star Trek universe.
Star Trek universe, all aliens have human below the nose sort of thing.
Which is great.
Well, the actors are kind of like, imagine like, I can't act with this rubber mask on.
But yeah, I mean, the half masks are really good, but you get expression. Half masks.
It's a half cast. The half masks were really good. Yeah.
You get really good expression, so actors. Yeah,
that's why it's that's why it's so amazing what happened with the Mandalorian, where you had an actor just wearing a helmet all the time. It could literally have been anyone and then dubbed. Did Doctor Who for you start to take a little bit of a nosedive at any stage? I mean, not a dramatic nosedive, but just like a bit where you started going, this is all getting a bit.
I mean, sometimes
I'm getting tired.
I mean, was that bit that even from a kid? I mean, I remember it's about 40 years ago since Peter Davison was the Doctor. And I remember that day because it was the last day of the Christmas holidays. So it was sort of the 4th of January or something. And I'd parked and it was the first time Doctor Who wasn't going to be on a Saturday night. And I remember parking myself in front of the TV. I was almost like in the morning, 8 or 9 hours before it was due to start, just watching whole of the BBC One, just hoping for between programmes to be a trailer so I could see a little bit of what that night's episode was going to be. And everything I did that day was just revolving around the fact that Doctor Who's on in a minute. And when Doctor Who's on now, my first waking thought is, Doctor Who. So much of my life, Doctor Who hasn't been on that day. So when it's on that day, a new episode, it really means something to me. And I noticed at times when I might have been up 2 or 3 hours before, I thought, oh yeah, Doctor Who's on tonight. It wasn't grabbing me in that same way. Or I'd be watching an episode and I'd look at my watch at some point and, ooh, I think that's bad. I'm not,
What, that you're looking at your watch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes, because as a fan, I want it to do well, so I'm always watching it from just for the pleasure of a viewer, but sometimes thinking, oh, what's the general audience thinking about this? How will this be going down with the public at large?
But it's almost like you can give people too much of something, can't you?
But sometimes...
Or was it more than that? Was it writing? Or
Despite that, I'd end up... And there was an episode recently in the last series, I think it was episode 2, and I was just totally absorbed by it. And it's the first time in years I've been totally in the world of that episode and not thinking, oh, is this going down well with the viewers or whatever. Just, and that's, it's terrific. So, yeah, at times I do... It doesn't capture my imagination the same way other episodes did. And sometimes I can still be right in there, right in the moment, just totally absorbed, like I was when I was 4 or 5. And that's Star Wars is the same for me. That because of Star Wars, there's a bit of me that's always going to be 8 years old. That boy that watched, A New Hope, and I'm like that now when I watch Star Wars. And there's a bit of me that's still that boy. Sometimes when I watch Doctor Who, thinking this is amazing, and this is frightening. And sometimes when I watch Doctor Who, I'm the cynical adult thinking, is this going down well with the viewers?
Yeah, see, that makes me think that it's more about, for a lot of people, nostalgia. And the thing is, when they make a show like this, I'm not sure anymore that they're all that fussed about the fan. Well, they're obviously they're fussed about the fans. They want to keep the fans happy. But I think they want to make, or the BBC wants to make a show that will sell and will attract new audiences. I know that's really, I mean...
And you should. I mean, if you make a programme to appeal to Doctor Who fans, you'd be very, very, you won't get 1 million viewers. And it's a very expensive programme to make. So you want to cast your net. You're a broadcaster, not a narrowcaster. And you don't, to appeal to just fans would be suicide. And I think that's where the programme at times went wrong. Certainly in the late 80s, when it lost its sway part, the producer at the time was attending conventions and fans were saying, kind of saying what they wanted to see, or where they almost were beginning to control or have influence on where the program was going. And that they don't know how to make television. They just remember their nostalgia for what they like. And you can't make you can't have a national channel and a big program like Doctor Who pandering to its fans. Although the lunatics are running the asylum, because the people who were fans back then when I was a kid are now the people who are making it. Russell T Davies came to Doctor Who not as a great TV writer, which he is, but as a fan, someone who loved the show as a kid. And then Stephen Moffat, who took over, Chris Chibnall, who's running it now, they're all fans. The writers, people like Mark Gatiss, Toby Whithouse, all huge fans.
So we were saying this earlier before we started filming that I was saying it that I think that with Star Wars there was a tendency to try and make to get a new audience with Star Wars. But what happens is you build up a new fan base, people who get absolutely fanatical about the product, which it is a product, and they get fanatical about the genre or the film series of Star Wars. And what they do is they want more when in between them making the film, so they go back and watch the New Hope, and they watch all the original and the prequels. So you kind of should cater to the older fan base as well, because the new fans are going to be looking at what the original canon was, and if they see that, hold on, the new stuff we've got now was not in line with what went before, and that's going to annoy the new fans as well. I don't know if there's any truth in that, but I'm sure that's probably true with Doctor Who as well. Let's talk about the new, because I don't watch Doctor Who, and it's not some. I don't know. You're either a Star Trek fan or you're a Doctor Who fan. Is my thinking, or is it Star Trek and Star Wars fan? But for me, it wasn't. I what I don't like about Doctor Who is I got annoyed. It's just like a bit much. But I got annoyed when just little things like the presentation of Britishness in Doctor. I didn't like every shot had a red telephone box, or look here's the Houses of Parliament, and it's the way people talked seemed very almost like Grange Hill, almost like. Not just the dialogue wasn't right for me. It didn't fit. It was a false representation of Britishness, is what I thought.
Definitely when it came back in 2000, because it was BBC Wales. A lot of it is filmed in Cardiff, but we do some, some location filming in London, and the make sure there's always that Big Ben in the background. Or
Oi, what do you think you're doing with that telephone box over there? Get it shifted, mate. I'm sure that line didn't happen. But right, so I watched the first episode of the Jodie Whittaker, the first one, and it was right. So this is what happens, right? Everyone who's seen it will know, but I'll just explain what happens. There's a guy pushing a bike along a hilltop, and he gets on it, and he's like pretending to wobble. It looks like he's pretending. It doesn't look right. And he falls off, and he gets in a sulky pants about it. And then this couple that are with him, like, go, are you okay? And he's like, oh, I'd never ride a bike, or something. I can't remember his line. And then they like go and sit on a hill, and everyone's moody, and it's beautiful. But it's almost like the set was chosen before the dialogue was written or something. And then he throws his bike off the top, doesn't he? He does that before. He throws his bike off. Like Mr. Sulky, but who behaves like that? Nobody behaves like that. And then later on, there's a police officer, and she's like 14 years old, and she meets a couple of women who are fighting, and there's like it doesn't get past me that one's a white woman, one's a black woman, and the white woman's the nasty person with the hammer. Smashes the windscreen. It's a great shot, but the hammer's literally sticking into the windscreen, and the police officer says, sort it out, we shouldn't be wasting our time fighting. Why can't you two just get on? This is an assault with a hammer, and the police officer's not going to waste time on it. I was like, well, that's not going to that doesn't happen. And then she meets the guy that she went to school with. So I won't go into it, but she then meets the guy who threw the bike over, and they know each other from school, they realise. They're both like 14 years old. No, I'm joking. They're not. They're probably early 20s, but the school would have only been like 4 or 5 years earlier. And they're like, oh, yeah. Oh, Access ages ago, 5 years. It's like you would know straight away, oh, yeah, how you doing? There wouldn't be any question that you recognise each other because apparently it turns out you actually knew her quite well. So that didn't make sense to me. And then he's 1 minute up a hilltop, next minute he's walking through a jungle, which we don't have here in the UK, as far as I know. We don't have jungles. And the bike's way up in the tree. It didn't make any sense to me. Am I being too harsh, Phil?
Well, no, you kind of said it's the reason you didn't like Doctor Who, but you talk about an episode that was about 55, 56 years into it. So I think you decided many years before then that you didn't like Doctor Who.
Yeah, well, I decided when I watched the first episode back in 2005 that I'm not going to watch this thing. I just wasn't interested. But because we're going to talk about it, I watched this to see how's it getting on.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have time to watch like 11 series of Doctor Who. I just can't do it now just to have a conversation about it. So I appreciate that. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I think...
But that episode, I didn't think... Having said everything I've just said, I kind of think, well, it was all right. It wasn't so bad. Jodie Whittaker I thought was quite good when she appeared. I kind of forgive all those things that were happening because I felt, well, we're making like a family show. That's what it felt, a family show.
Yeah, I mean, when she was cast, it was kind of like brave and huge. And front page of newspapers was the fact that it was a woman, and actually the newspapers were celebrating the fact that it was a great decision. When I saw it, when it was unveiled, it was like an advert, a trailer, and you saw the Doctor from behind, and the Doctor pulled down the hood, and it cut round, and you saw it was Jodie. And I remember thinking, oh my God, they've actually done it, because there's always been talk of the next Doctor could be a woman. Tom Baker started it when he resigned in '81 at the press conference as a joke. He just said, "I like to wish my successor, whoever he or she may be, the best of luck." And at that moment, it was possibility.
That's massively forward thinking, isn't it? I mean, just that whole thinking that the actor who can play this main role could be either a man or a woman. And I think if there was any sort of backlash about it, it was just because people were feeling. The other stuff was happening in television, and it was kind of like decisions were being made that weren't necessarily best for the TV shows, but were being made more to satisfy, Twitterati, and public opinion. But all it was doing was moving with the times, and I don't think there's any problem with the Doctor being a woman. I don't think she's kind of been as popular, though. I think in terms of casting, I know she's gone. I know she's gone on the record with Chibnall talking about using Doctor Who as a platform, and I've heard that about Star Trek as well, and I've heard that about Marvel, where the producers have talked about using Marvel as a platform to try and change people's attitudes about things. And I think when that's getting political for me, which is not what storytelling and films are about. I mean, this is all background business, I guess, but they're saying it on the red carpets and stuff. So I don't know.
I think she's great at casting. She's a great Doctor, and I think her first scene was actually leaked online. I think I don't know if it claimed the BBC tried to suppress it, and I saw it online, and I instantly, the second she appeared, I thought that's the Doctor, and I think she nailed it in her first scene. Brilliant. I think she's fantastic casting as a Doctor.
Yeah, I liked it.
And I I think some quite serious big names, male and female, were in the running, and were trying to get be the part of the 13th Doctor. And she got a great choice, and she's been a fantastic Doctor. I think but it's not caught the audience's attention. About the same time, was a new showrunner or producer. Was a new look, it was very sort of a whole new team of companions, and kind of, I think each producer who comes, or showrunner as they call them now, wants to take it in their own direction, makes their own stamp on it, and that's why they're there. And so things like everything changes, the arrangement of the theme tune, the opening titles, the design of the TARDIS. So it's a whole, the companions change as well. So it's a whole kind of like reboot or restart. And the production team have perhaps moved it in a way that hasn't quite captured the fans' imagination in the same way. And because she was cast at the same time, I think people said, oh, it's because there's a female Doctor. And I think actually, no, it's not actually. Okay, people might not be, as... Yeah, I just think it's just not captured the audience's imagination. I don't hear as many people talk about it, or you don't see as many articles in newspapers, or as many toys in the toy shop as you used to. And
is that because, the Chibnall had worked with her before, hadn't he? Yeah. So, and I can understand how somebody would want to work with somebody that they've got a really good relationship with, because that means straight off the bat they're going to have it's going to be easier. They know each other's. They're going to get confidence from each other. And
Russell had worked with Christopher Eccleston and David Tennant before, outside of Doctor Who, and cast them in Doctor Who.
See, choices like that, they all make complete sense to me. That you want to work with people you've worked with before. There's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes it's interesting to have a look to try it. To screen test a variety of people. Was anyone else screen tested for it?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, and just got quite big names as well, I understand.
Like who?
I think people like Olivia Colman. And that's all.
See, that would have been great, wouldn't it? Olivia Colman would be a great Doctor, wouldn't she?
Yeah, well, there's not announced the next Doctor. Wow. Wow.
They've not announced the next Doctor?
No.
So, yes, because she's definitely leaving.
Yeah, so she's filmed her end scene. She's filmed the start of the Regeneration. But actually, the actor that steps in to film the rest of it, but she's turns into, hasn't been chosen yet. And it could be male, could be female, could be.
What could be gender fluid? Gender fluid.
I'm being very binary there, aren't I?
You've been very binary. Could be gender fluid.
Could be.
Could be gender fluid. That wouldn't be confusing to anybody.
And
that should be quite interesting. There was gender fluid characters in gender fluid. No, they weren't gender fluid. I don't know what were they gender. They didn't have any gender. I don't think in Star Trek.
Yeah. Well,
so these are all things that people are fine with. You just don't have to make a big deal about them. And in a way, I kind of think that was a mistake of Doctor Who that they engaged with first female Doctor sort of narrative. They should just done it, I think, and just hope for the best.
To a large extent, they did it. Very little reference has been made to the change of gender in the series. The Doctor, the odd remark, the occasional remark about just being a woman, but never. It's not been an issue within the storyline, which is good, because it's just, I'm a new Doctor, this is it, boom. And I think that's the kind of part of the fault of the narrative. Before anyone could question it or decide whether we could like it or not, boom, boom, the narrative just raced on and swept you along with it. I think she's been terrific. I don't think she's been served by terrific stories all the time. I think there's been perhaps some sameness in the stories that meant it's not rewarding the viewer.
Do they mix and match the writers, or is it a team of writers that do Doctor Who?
Yeah, you got the showrunner is the lead writer, and
right,
and then he will. It's always been he up to now.
Could be a she.
Definitely could be.
Could be a she. Women can write.
They can, and actually one thing I say.
Why hasn't it been though? Why hasn't there been a female? Oh. Sorry.
I think Chibnall actually has hired more female writers and directors than the programme's had in the past. Great. Directing's been fantastic.
So can I ask you about the dialogue, though? I mean, I don't know Chibnall's background, but for me, the dialogue, whenever I've not really watched much, but it doesn't... Somebody's not good at writing dialogue. I don't know. There's a difficulty in writing dialogue for that show that you weren't getting in shows like Sherlock.
Right. Yeah.
So what's going on? I didn't understand because there were other writers in some of the Doctor Who shows. I think,
including Stephen and Mark who did Sherlock.
Is it a good idea that the showrunner's got lots to do? I mean, should they be writing it as well, or is that? I don't know.
A lot of questions there. And first of all, if a showrunner knows a program really well.
But given the role of writing it to the runner seems weird.
Yeah.
Because they make tea, coffee. They've got to go and get messages. They're the runner on the show. I don't understand why is the runner on the show being given?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, where's the tea person?
Do you think that's mental?
Mental, absolute mental.
So it's no wonder.
No wonder. No, but yeah, I'm poor Russell T Davies. I'm just here to make the coffee. I mean, can we write 10 episodes?
And they're like saying to him,
Yeah,
I'm a runner. Why are you asking me?
He's got his sand shoes on. Anyway,
That's mental.
absolutely mental. What are they thinking?
So, best of luck. Oh, sorry, did you want to say?
No, in the
this is
others-
your world, Phil. You could talk about this forever, I know.
In the old days, yeah, there'd be a producer. The producers didn't do any writing whatsoever. You know, there's a producer. Then there was a script editor who, who might have edited according to what the producer said. But there's, the producer's fingerprints weren't on the script. But now you've got the producer is kind of like the main writer as well, and the script editor.
Well, even the term showrunner is like an Americanism. There's like Americanism slipping in. We didn't when I was working at the BBC. We had no showrunners, which is kind of interesting. I think that there's a different motivation towards making shows now, which is that it has to. This is why I think we were seeing red telephone boxes and stuff. I even heard rumours that they were putting telephone boxes in the back of vehicles, and in Wales, because there's a lot of some shot in Wales, they'd take telephone boxes out to make it look.
It's not a rumour; it's a fact. I mean,
right. Well,
they had telephone boxes, letterboxes, black cabs, and red buses was part of a set of BBC Wales, so that could make any street look like London, really.
Oh, right, okay. Well, that's fair enough.
And they're thinking, they're aiming for a foreign, foreign market as well, which is important for the BBC and for the programme. And if you're making a good programme and you're passionate about it, you want as many people to see it as possible. And part of that is you packaging a view of Britain to those people. And yeah, it's black cabs and red letterboxes. And that's not offensive or anything. And it's a shortcut. And you're making 45 minutes. You don't have a lot of time to establish sort of place and plot and character. So if you can use a shortcut like a bus, then that's brilliant, I think.
All of this has been tarred completely and tainted by the bombardment and accessibility people have through Twitter. And I bet Jodie had a terrible time. I bet she was getting hammered by some people. Because I know there's people out there who don't like her in Doctor Who, and for whatever reasons that might be. I'm noticing that season 13 is the current one. Is it Flux we're on at the minute?
Yeah, just finished, yeah.
Do you know what the Rotten Tomatoes audience score is for that? So the critic ratings, only 46 critics, it's running at 80%. And from the user ratings of 316 people, 34%.
I think
is that unfair?
Well, I think I'm going to stereotype the Rotten Tomato contributor.
Right, okay. Well, hold on. What about the critic first?
Is that about 80%?
Yes, the 80%. But sometimes, there's been recordings that a lot of these guys are deliberately giving good scores because they're not getting invited to the early viewings unless they do. It sounds cynical. It might even sound a little bit like conspiracy theory. But there is a recording I've heard a recording of a guy who's actually admitted that is the case. But that's more Hollywood, I think. I don't know if it's the case with the BBC.
It'd be all if the BBC was doing that. It'd be all because it just totally goes against the spirit of the programme.
Yeah, it'd be a huge story.
And also,
it's not the BBC. It is the BBC. Go on.
And if that's the case, it shows a lack of faith in your own products if you have to do that. If you believe in your own products, you should allow people to. In terms of this is stereotypical and generalisation here. I think the contributor to Rotten Tomatoes is.
Sorry. When you say contra what?
Well, the people who vote on Rotten Tomatoes.
Contributor. Well, you say tomato, I say tomato.
You say Rotten Tomatoes, I say Rotten Tomatoes.
34%, Phil. Was that fair? So who do you think they are then, these people? Are they protesting?
I think, to be honest, if you don't like something, you're more likely to go and make your complaint. If you like something, I don't think you're...
That's true. That's definitely true. People are much more...
I think that TripAdvisor and all that, have that. So you're not motivated to praise, you're only motivated to criticise. And I think a lot of, the hardcore fans who perhaps are upset that it's a female doctor. And I do know of people who have not watched it because it's a female doctor. So they were watching Capaldi's last episode up to the point where Capaldi started to regenerate, and then they stopped. They didn't even watch the rest of that episode. And they're not going to watch it again until there's a male doctor. And I
Okay,
think that,
well, that's
and
a
I
shame.
think that totally goes against exactly what the programme's about. Because
Yeah.
the Doctor always sides with the underdog, and the Doctor's a left-wing, inclusive, diverse character. And so for fans who say, "Well, I'm not watching it because it's a woman," actually, what programme have they been watching for all those decades? Because they've not listened to the morals of the central character at all. So it's shocking. But
Well, that's a stupid reason to not watch because it's a woman. That's like it's stupid. You can not watch it because you don't like the performance of the actor. You can not watch it because you don't like the script. You can not watch it if you're not watching it because you hate politics that are going on generally in the world. Then fine, don't watch it. But that's the reason you're not watching it. It's got nothing to do with a woman. It's got it's to do with a woman or an actor you don't like, right? It's not her fault. She's doing the best she can. And she's not going to say no if she's been offered a job like that. Well, maybe she would. I don't know. But just to make your point about Rotten Tomatoes, Squid Game on Netflix has got 83% score. So people were motivated to say nice things about Squid Game. So sometimes it does work the other way around.
I think, and also, I think, I'm assuming Doctor Who and Rotten Tomatoes viewers perhaps more like male and the protest vote. And it's very mixed. Flux had some great episodes in, and some episodes where actually the finale I think was just trying to do too much. I mean, a couple of episodes where it just seems to be running on the spot, not going anywhere. So it was quite an uneven series. More successful than her other series actually. I think she was great in it. And some great guest stars in it. But and also the point is, Twitter. I know that I think when he was showrunner, Stephen Moffat said to people who came in as writers and guest actors, said, avoid Twitter because you'll feel awful because actually the sort of the bullying that went on, the nasty things that people say about the programme on actors' sites or writers' Twitter feeds. That was awful, nasty things are being said. And
I think that as a rule that if I was producing something, if I was making a show, I kind of like I think like the BBC are almost trying to contractually stop people going onto Twitter and commenting for sure or engaging with people who are being negative. So I think that's a BBC thing now. I think there's some people who are so ingrained in the BBC and they've become so too powerful as a presenter or whatever, like from the news, that they'll just say what they like. I know that there was somebody, Robinson, Nick Robinson was being very defensive of what he was doing, which is fine in a way, but it was also like, are you representing the whole BBC when you're writing that message? Because that's quotable. And also like, I think presenters generally have been given too much power, but I would definitely be saying from the BBC's point of view, for your own safety and your own sake, don't be paying attention to what people are saying on Twitter. I think we should, we've been talking for about an hour, so we should probably wrap it up. But
just getting going.
I know,
can't
go on.
I think it's a really sad thing about fandom. The idea of fandom actually can be really nasty in its criticism. And actually, we'll actually make personal comments about sort of creatives. No creative on any programme tries to make a bad programme. And actually, even a bad episode of Doctor Who, a lot of people work incredibly hard to make the impossible happen and get that on screen.
I mean, that's from my bugbear is that quite often when people are just slamming a new show or a new series or whatever, all the people who put their heart and soul into making a model or into shooting something and lighting something, spending all day lighting it, designing the sets, designing the costumes, doing all the makeup. All these people are super passionate and really good at their jobs. That all goes to shit because people don't like the show. There's a woman in it. I don't like it. It's all, the entire thing's rubbish, as a result. And then that's why I don't think that, Rotten Tomatoes is even fair to put a number on a show like this is what this show's value is.
And actually, it was so many. I mean, the BBC always have the AI, the Audience Appreciation Index, which is, which I think it polls. There's X amount of people with set-top boxes to record viewing figures. And so the audience, and that's kind of taken serious in terms of.
Sorry, Phil. How does that work then? So, it's out of what's the score out of?
It's out of 100.
100 what?
100 points, 100%. So the
Right.
Get people, a cross section of people to actually rate the programme of the output of the BBC, and it'll end up with a score like, so an AI of above 80. It seems to be a programme that has been really appreciated by the audience.
Every single series of Doctor Who since the revived era of it has been above 80, apart from series 13, which is 77.
It's interesting.
But that's going to be a number that the BBC really pay attention to, isn't it? They're not going to care what Rotten Tomatoes is saying. They might care a little bit about what Twitter's saying, but they're not going to pay any attention to these people. And also, to a certain extent, they might just be looking at the output and go, this needs an injection of new blood, new ideas, and new thinking, and a new doctor.
Well, you see, I mean, that's before season 13 was broadcast. It was announced that Russell T Davies is coming back and there'll be a new doctor, and there's this great wave of excitement about, oh, this is going to be fantastic. Actually, well, there's still more from the current team, and I felt really sad that there's so much excitement about the future of Doctor Who, but the present was kind of like sidelined a bit, which is a huge shame because there's some really good stuff happening. And yeah, it was a patchy series, but it was. I mean, it was for the first time a really good wholehearted Doctor Who romp and adventure through time and space. And
a Doctor Who romp. Who doesn't want a Doctor Who? Listen, so what do you think? Who's going to be the next Doctor?
I'm waiting for the call any minute now. I've got my phone here. I'm waiting for BBC Wales.
What could you bring? What could you bring to the role of the Doctor?
Gravitas.
Gravity.
Gravity.
You can bring gravity to it.
Gravitas. I will bring.
Doctor, what planet is the? Sorry, Phil.
You see, it's already working, isn't it?
What planet is?
I'm from Gallifrey.
Oh, the Doctor's from Gallifrey,
Well,
is he?
no, it's not. She's
sorry.
not. It's not. They're not.
It's not, no. So where's the Doctor from, Phil?
We don't know. Obviously,
how long have we not known?
For a couple of years, for a year or so, it's been very stressful. It's not.
So when you go back and watch all the old Doctor Who's, and he's going, I'm from Gallifrey. That was Tom Baker.
I know that.
and then you're going to be thinking, no, you're not.
Yeah.
That would kill me.
But the Doctor, they did that. The Doctor thought they were from Gallifrey. The memory's been wiped, you see. So and I think that's, I mean, it's a real shame, and I think it's where perhaps the showrunner, perhaps too keen to put their own stamp on the series, ends up rewriting.
It's almost like it's
legacy.
A deliberate attempt to like piss people off. It's like you all need to understand that we can do with this whatever we want to do. Is there a bit of that?
I think it's like, it's always Doctor Who. I mean, the Who thing has always been there. It's very important. And there have been a number of times, I mean, even when, after about 6 years, it was said the Time Lords were introduced, and it was said the Doctor's from the Time Lords. And a few years later, the word Gallifrey was introduced. And I think even then people sort of saying, oh, it's spoiling the mystery a bit. And every now and again you get a little bit of information about the Doctor's past. So with Capaldi went back to actually his childhood home, where the Doctor grew up, a band that the Doctor grew up. And people said, oh, we don't really want to know too much, because the Who's got to be very much there. And then sort of just changing. Chris Chibnall, he introduced this concept of the timeless child, and who was a timeless child. I know, he's going to say it's the Doctor. And in one episode, we see, you are the timeless child. Oh, and it was, you were found by a Gallifreyan traveller. They weren't Time Lords, and they didn't have time travel. Gallifreyan traveller called Tecteun found the Doctor, found this child near a portal, alone and abandoned. So this traveller, this Tecteun, this Gallifreyan, took them in, and they found out this child had an accident and regenerated. Oh my God, I'm going to find out take this power of regeneration and give it to all Gallifreyans, and they became Time Lords. And the Doctor, oh God, and it's like, no, it's like, you're taking the Who away from there. And I think the writer...
Are you taking the Who?
Taking the Who. You don't take the Who out of Doctor.
Don't take the Who out of the Doctor. I love it.
Yeah, you want, as a writer, you want to add your bit. You want to contribute to the mythology. I think that was what the writer was trying to do, contribute to that mythology. But actually rewrote it instead. And I think... And it's a part that, I mean, no one gave a shit who the Timeless Child was, to be honest. And it shouldn't have been the Doctor. And it was a real shame. And I think, it's almost like ego. You don't you serve the program doesn't serve you as a creator. And I think it went wrong there.
Is that like the writer or the producers or the execs or whoever stepping in front of the camera in a way? You know, they're kind of like, oh, hi, we're here and we're in control, just to remind you. Do you remember Bullseye used to always have that little bull going like that?
Yeah.
I always think, it's when I watch Tarantino films as well, I always think that when it's a really clever piece of dialogue, it's like Tarantino coming up at the bottom of the screen going, I wrote that.
But it's kind of what convention culture, since conventions really started in the 1980s up to the now massive things, is that the showrunner comes on stage and they're stars, which is great. And but it kind of it's shifted their perhaps position. You'll find that Chris Chibnall in the 1980s was on television commenting about the McCoy era. He was a fan on Open Air, saying he didn't like he said a good story should have a beginning, middle, and end. And I think, as a young man, Chibnall was.
He wasn't practicing what he was preaching.
It could have been slightly better written, especially the last story. Not only that, but it was also very cliched. It was very routine, running up and down corridors and silly monsters. It was perhaps a little too routine Doctor Who, very much what the audience is expecting. It's not really very challenging for them to watch. The story itself has been done in a different way in the past few years, very much a whodunit on board a space liner, and a very traditional sort of thing that people will expect Doctor Who to fall into. But I still...
No! He's forgotten. It's hard to write stuff, though, and if you're writing all of it, and plus you're the showrunner, signing off sets and music and all sorts, I don't know, it seems too much to me. We've got to wrap it up, Phil, because people have long nodded off. Long nodded off, listening to us blabber on about
What do you mean people? Who are these people? Thanks for watching. If you're still with us, thank you very much. And I hope it was interesting. And just go and watch and enjoy Doctor Who and love it.
Or, do that. Why not? Well, it's simply going to be interesting finding out what happens next with Doctor Who. I'll certainly be watching, and when it does happen, maybe we can drag him back from his teaching film to young people down in Brighton at the moment.
Yeah, hold
on, he wants to say... I was wrapping up, but Phil wants to say something else. Let's just... Go ahead, Phil.
Like everything, a long-running programme, it has dips, it has chops, it has triumphs. And I think, the danger of Doctor Who is because it was once axed for not being so popular, people think, it's going to get axed again. No, it's not. It's going to keep going, and it will capture our imaginations and be a huge hit. And and there's a bit of me that always kept with a child that I was because of Doctor Who, and I'll happily watch every episode that's made from now until the day I die, and we'll just appreciate that I'm watching Doctor Who.
Right, so a totally unbiased view of Doctor Who there for Phil and me. I hope you enjoyed that. A little bit of history, a little bit of opinion. If you did like it, let me know down in the comments. Try and be nice. I know it's a real touchy subject for people.
I'm not trying to persuade anyone that it's great. I'm just saying what I think. And there you go.
I know. So
you're rubbish because you don't like it, but I've not said that.
Comment down below, hit a like, hit a share, oh my lord, what's wrong now?
Are you wrapping up?
I'm doing my best to wrap up, but you keep talking.
I'm off.
What about your fee?
I'll get a fee.
He gets no fee. Thanks very much for watching. This is Fludded. I've been Craig, and that's been Phil Dukes over there.
It's been emotional. Good night.
Goodbye.